بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. To mawqif or not to mawqif, that still is the question. In this episode we shall be looking at a case study on matters of jarh wa ta'dil. In previous episodes we have given you an overview of what jarh wa ta'dil is and how it functions in broad terms. In this episode right here, we shall be analyzing the speech of one of the lieutenants of the Salafi publication Mafia in the United States, and he is none other than Anwar Wright, who is trying to justify throwing out of the window the criticism that has been made by Sheikh Wasiullah Al-Abbasi against his leadership. So the reason why we're doing this video is, first of all, to just clarify the falsehood of what Anwar is trying to push onto you. Second is to give you an example of how easy it is to manipulate somebody when he doesn't know his religion properly. But can you really blame people for not understanding jarh wa ta'dil? No, not really. Rather, you should beware of people trying to pull you into a field that you just cannot really know about as a layman, and just stick to the fundamentals of your religion and just use common sense. When you see somebody lying, then he is just that, a liar. If somebody is trying to prove to you with complicated rules and principles that what you know, what you have come to know to be a liar is in fact not a liar, but the issue is with yourself, that you have a wrong perspective on things, that should be a red flag for you. So first of all, to recapitulate what we have said about jarh wa ta'dil previously, jarh and ta'dil is a science from the sciences of ahadith, nothing else. It's not a science of sunnah and bid'ah and who's upon and who's off, etc. That's not what jarh wa ta'dil is. The point of this science is to grade hadith narrators. It's not to decide whether a narrator is an innovator or not. That has nothing to do with jarh wa ta'dil. Third, we need to know that jarh wa ta'dil grades narrators based on their reliability, and reliability is based upon two main aspects. Number one is his accuracy. Does he know what he is talking about? Number two, his religious soundness. Is he a person of righteousness that we can trust to convey the information properly, be it for him or against him? Now, you understand from what I have just said that if we're talking about grading narrators, that doesn't apply to modern day context. That just applies to books of ahadith. So, however, the matter of accuracy and religious soundness overlaps with other fields of the Sharia. Like, for example, when we speak about bearing witness in court. The witness should be a person who knows what he's talking about. If he's bearing witness to an accident, he can't bear witness if he has not witnessed the accident. If he was in bed sleeping at the time of the accident, you understand that he does not qualify to be a witness. Likewise, when we speak about somebody who is to convey knowledge, if that person hasn't studied, he shouldn't be the one conveying knowledge. Likewise, the matter of being religiously sound also applies, because let's say the person has attended the accident and has seen what has happened. However, he is somebody who is extremely biased towards one of the two parties involved, either because he's from the same tribe, the same group, same family, they've been long friends, etc. We understand that here it's going to take a very high level of religiosity to, bear witness to the truth even against your own people. So if this person is, known to be of somewhat dubious character, he's just not going to be the right person to bear witness. So as we said, this particular science overlaps with other fields of the Sharia. Then, when we speak about Jarh wa Ta'dil in the matters of Mawqif, the only thing they're really interested about is the chapter on Ta'arud al-Jarh wa Ta'dil. When you have a Jarh, a criticism that is conflicting with a Ta'dil, recommendation, or a bearing witness to the reliability of somebody. When these two statements are conflicting, there are a number of rules and techniques we apply to try and find out how we're supposed to navigate the terrain. Now, this particular matter has strictly no application in modern day context, especially not in da'wah. You see, when we have a narrator who has been commended on one side, people have praised him, say that he is a righteous guy who has accuracy in what he's narrating. But then we have another Imam from the Jarh wa Ta'dil who says, no, this guy is unreliable. How do we deal with that? Well, we don't have much substance to look into. All we have is the statement of this Imam against the statement of that Imam, and whatever substance we have from this individual, which is going to be a bunch of narrations. That's what we have to deal with. So that chapter deals with how do we make sense out of this. Nowadays, when it comes to modern day context, we don't have this problem. You see, if somebody comes out and says, oh, Fulan is a deviant. Why? Well, he calls people to shirk. He calls people to make tawaf around the graves. Oh yeah? Really? You sure? Yeah, I'm 100% sure. Alright, well, Fulan, is he alive? Yeah. Does he have a YouTube channel? Yes, he does. Okay, let's go. Alright. So, he has a whole series on Tawheed. Let's look at that. Oh, well, here he's defining shirk properly. He's defining Tawheed properly. And he seems to be calling to Tawheed. Oh, now look, he has a whole video explaining why making tawaf around the grave is actually, in 99% of the cases, major shirk, and maybe there's a few situations where it could be considered minor shirk. Well, very obviously, you are not telling the truth about this individual. We can verify information. We don't have to be in this state where, oh, this great Imam of Jarh wa Ta'dil has spoken, so everything I have actually known about this individual, me having attended his classes for 5 years and knowing exactly what he's preaching, now I'm having supposedly the Imam of Jarh wa Ta'dil who's making criticism on this guy based on a khabar thiqah brought to him that contradicts everything I know about him. Now I'm supposed to close my eyes and just close my ears and just accept this blindly and deny my own eyes and my own ears. That's what they want you to come at. That doesn't apply to modern day context. However, for the sake of argument, we're going to go by the rules of Jarh wa Ta'dil in this particular topic to show you that despite all of that, they still don't have a foot to stand on. So a little background on the story. Shaykh Wasiullah al-Abbas, Hafidhahullah wa Afa wa Shafa, has criticized the leadership of Salafi publications after having spent time with them and spoken to them, and it's on record, so it's not rumors. Has criticized them for a number of things, but now we have Anwar Wright who comes out and claims that this criticism is not valid. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Very last, Ya Akhwan, we would like to address a shubha, a doubt, promoted by some individuals, either because of them being ignorant. And if they are ignorant, then they can be taught, inshallah. يُعَلَّمُونَ. Or either because they are from the people of desires. And if this is their case, then what can be done with them?
Yes, this is an absolute principle with this particular jama'ah. Whenever somebody opposes or even just doubts or is on the fence on some of their holy principles that is so particular to them, that 99% of the major scholars of the Sunnah in present day and age, and forget in history, have spoken against. In that case, the person can only be one in two. Either a miskeen, ignorant guy who understands nothing and who isn't able to distinguish right from wrong, or an evil deviant who's trying to put doubts in your heart and turn you away from the truth. Let's continue.
It is those who say, you all have double standards. If the detailed criticism takes place, then why don't you take the criticism of Sheikh Wasiullah Abbas, Hafidhullah, regarding Maktabat al-Salafiyya and Abu Khadija Abdul Wahid? This is the shubha that they say. And I've heard it more than once. One time I heard it in Newark. One time I heard it in Camden. And maybe I heard it another time besides that. But this is the shubha that you find individuals, they say. So in response to this doubt, I say, first and foremost, as Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari, he mentions in his lessons of Dawabit al-Jarh wa Ta'deel. He says, أن القاعدة الجرح مقدم على التعديل وقاعدة لا يقبل الجرح إلا مفسرا ليست على الإطلاق.
Alright, interesting. So all these years when jar comes from your end of the spectrum, it has to be accepted as if it was revelation. But now that jar comes from another direction towards your direction, now we're actually being told that there is more to it. Jar is not always accepted that easily. Okay, interesting. So let's see how that works.
ففي حق من ثبتت عدالته.
ثبتت عدالته. Let's keep that in mind. ثبتت عدالته. His adala, his reliability, is firmly established and has been proven. Let's see about that.
وثقته لا يقدم الجرء المجمل على التعديل بل لا يلتفت إليه ولا يقبل إلا مفسرا وأما من لم تثبت عدالته وصدر فيه جرح فإنه يقدم مطلقا ولو كان مجملا وهذا مشروط إن صدر من عارف بأسبابه. He says, Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari Hafidhullah, that the principle that the jarh takes precedence over the praise, and the principle that the criticism is not accepted except if it is detailed, then this affair is not unrestricted. Rather, the one whose adala, whose trustworthiness and truthfulness has been established, meaning upon the people of knowledge, a general criticism regarding them will not take precedence over a praise.
So again, here we're back at what I have pointed out in the Arabic part of the video. ثبتت عدالته. Anwar, you trying to imply that Abu Khadija, Bilal Davis, and what's the other guy's name, Amjad, that their adala is thabita? Anwar, based on the rules of Jarh wa Ta'deel, and this is one of the matters that is overlapping with other points of the Sharia, what makes the adala thabita? Based on what do we judge a person to be reliable? Is him to be religiously sound and to know what he's talking about. So how do we know what a person is talking about? Go back to the books on Jarh wa Ta'deel. I have obviously the same as I was using previously, but you can go back to any book of Jarh wa Ta'deel. You're going to find it right there in the same way. So ماذا يعرف به ضبط الراوي؟ First of all, مقارنة رواياته بروايات الثقات المعروفين بالضبط والإتقان, is that we compare his narrations with the narrations of the highly reliable narrators and we see if they match. So we see that this is a form of testing the person. Now we see that we are not testing them upon the mawqif. What's your mawqif on him? What do you say about him? What do you say about her? What's this? What's that? And Sheikh so and so and Sheikh so. No. The substance. What are you conveying? That's what you're being tested upon. So that is by comparing the narrations. Other way of testing, يمتحن الراوي بأساليب متنوعة منها تقرأ عليه أحاديث تدخل من ضمن رواياته لينظروا أن يتفطنوا لها أم يتلقنوها. So all we have to test the rawi in different ways. Like for example that they would recite a hadith to him and they would include in the ahadith either wordings or part of other ahadith, or maybe same hadith but a different narration, to see if he picks up upon this or if he'll just accept it the way it is. So that will show, if he does accept it like that, it shows that that's a form of weakness. قلب الأسانيد بتركيبها على غير متونها, to mix up the asanid, the chains of narration, with the matan of the hadith, right? Like the wording of the hadith itself. So you take the hadith but you put another chain of narration. Does he notice that? So etc, etc. So we see that for a person to be judged thiqa or adal, he has to be tested. Now I'm asking you, Anwar, when did Abu Khadija and Amjad get tested, and on what? On what did they get tested? Nothing. They've never been tested. Now as far as Bilal Davis is concerned, he has been tested and he failed. Let's just be open about it. When I was still, convinced that you guys were the people, and I came to this region of the world, and one of the mashayikh was asking me about the da'wah in England and whatnot. And it was quite funny because he knew way more about the da'wah in England than I did. I had only spent 1 year in England. So me having had the Kool-Aid in big quantities, I gave him what I thought was your guys' hal, and he was just shaking his head and saying, nah, that's not the case. And I said, no, not really, they have this guy, Bilal Davis, he spent 10 years studying in Medina. I said, yeah, he spent 10 years failing, all right? And he was saying, nah, these guys in Birmingham, clueless, problem. You gonna deny that, Anwar? Right? Are your lieutenants here, what's his name, Abu Yahya and Nadim, you guys gonna deny that? Deny it, I challenge you.
ففي حق من ثبتت عدالته وثقته لا يقدم الجرء المجمل على التعديل، بل لا يلتفت إليه، ولا يقبل إلا مفسرا.
So hold on, wait a second here. So you're saying that despite your understanding that supposedly your leadership has adala, alright, for argument's sake, now there would still be a way that the jarh of Sheikh Wasiullah al-Abbasi would be accepted, right? Because unlike what you have translated, what your Sheikh has said in extremely simplified terms is that if the jarh is mufassar, it is accepted. You have said that it is not accepted if it's general. That's not what your Sheikh said. You mistranslated him, you misquoted him. He said, kana mufassaran. So Anwar, let me ask you, what is a jarh mubham and what is a jarh mufassar? So Anwar, what is considered a jarh mufassar? Well, in page 47 of this book here, ضوابط الجرح والتعديل, but you can find it in every book on jarh والتعديل. المراد بتفسير الجرح والتعديل بيان أسبابهما، والمراد بإبهامها عدم بيان الأسباب. So what is a jarh mubham? Jarh mubham is like saying fulan ضعيف, he is weak. أو ليس بالقوي, he is not strong. That is mubham. It means you haven't clarified why is he weak. And what is a tafsir of a jarh? A tafsir of a jarh, you go to the chapter on mustalahat al-jarh, right? So you have, as we said, ليس بقوي للضعف ما هو. That is a form of mubham. And then تعرف وتنكر, some good, some bad. So that shows a weakness in his accuracy. That is a clarification. That is a jarh mufassar. يروي مناكير, he is narrating a hadith that we know to be different. We'll call a hadith munkar. Yani the people who are more reliable than him narrate these ahadith differently. That is a jarh mufassar. Yani this single word. Matruk, Alright, متهم بالكذب وهو متهم بالكذب. What's the meaning of متهم بالكذب? يطلق هذا اللفظ على الراوي في حالتين: إذا تفرد برواية ما يخالف أصول الدين وقواعد عامة لم يكن في الإسناد من يتهم بذلك غيره، إذا عرف عنه الكذب في كلامه وإن لم يظهر منه وقوع ذلك في الحديث النبوي. متهم بالكذب is that either he is narrating something that goes against clear-cut basic principle of the deen that have been established either in the Quran or by other or authentic ahadith that there is no doubt about. That is one form. The other form is that this person is known to lie in his speech in whatever matter, even if it's not in hadith. That's muttaham bil kadhib. So that alone, muttaham bil kadhib, is a jarh mufassar. So unlike what you're trying to implicitly make your followers understand, a jarh mufassar is not a 30-page long PDF. That's not a jarh mufassar. That can be considered a rad, a bayan, something like that, but that is not at all a jarh mufassar. If you look at the books of ahadith, imagine if on every rawi we needed a 30-page long PDF to decide whether the jarh is mufassar or not. Whew, we wouldn't finish. Abadan. Alright? So, the question is then, is the jarh, if that's what you want to call it, by Shaykh Wasil al-Abbasi, mufassar or not? So let's listen.
الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ما ذكرت أني قلت عن الأخ أبي خديجة أنه جعل هدفه النيل من الجمعية والسلفيين الآخرين، هذا يقول أنه في وضع حرج لأنه لزم عليه أو علي أن أسحب ما قلته. أقول لا، بل أكرر أن هذا الشخص ومن معه، أكرر في يومي هذا الذي هو 17 من جماد الآخرة سنة 32 و400 ألف، أن هؤلاء في الحقيقة ليس همهم إلا إسقاط السلفيين ببعض الأخطاء، وكلكم خطاؤون وخير الخطائين التوابون. فهناك أمور قد جلست معه ليست نقلت علي كما يكذب هو، إن كان يعني يسميني بالظالم والمفتري، فأنا أقول هو يكذب علي أنه نقلت لي أكاذيب.
Hold on, what did he just say? He said they are lying, muttaham bil kadhib, not lying upon ahadith, but lying in their way, you know, like whatever he asked them about in matters of divorce and whatnot, they lied. And he's saying that he's spoken to them directly and he found it through their speech with them, not through other people conveying it to him like they are claiming, lying again. So that is one jarh mufassar. Let's continue.
أنا بنفسي جلست عنده ساعات كما هو مسجل، وسألته عن الأسباب التي لأجله يحذر من السلفيين في بريطانيا وغيرهم والأفراد الذين يجد فيهم بعض الأخطاء. كل هذا قد ناقشته فيها فلم أجد عنده شيئا، ولا زلت أكرر أن هؤلاء ليسوا من طلاب العلم وليسوا معروفين أنهم طلبوا العلم، إنما يحضرون عند بعض المشايخ، فحق لهم أن ينقلوا كلام علمائنا حفظهم الله ورحم الله من مات منهم، لكنه لا يجوز لهم أن يفتوا بأنفسهم. أوكد عليهم هؤلاء جهال ولا شك فيه، هؤلاء جهال ولا شك فيه، هؤلاء جهال ولا شك فيه.
Juhal, ignorance. That is another jarh mufassar. And that's a jarh that's right in his place, because that is the reality of your leadership. Be it Abu Khadija, the PDF master, or Bilal Davis who has failed his exams, they are not competent to speak about many of the things they speak about. So, dear viewers, what I want you to take away from this is, once again, look how dishonest these people are, and to what extent they are prepared to manipulate the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of preserving their mafia and clearing up after their leadership when they messed up, and regardless of the Sharia and the well-being of their own followers and the truth. So the next thing that I want you to pay attention to is that if you are a lay person, although that terminology seems quite negative, but there is nothing wrong with that. You can be a wali of Allah even if you don't become a scholar. But what it comes down to is for you to do the right thing. The fundamentals of this religion are clear. Stick to it. Whenever you find people from your gang, be it this Salafi Publications Mafia or so many others, then if you see them trying to pull you into matters that somehow just don't stick right, but they have all this complex explanation with principles and this sheikh and that sheikh, etc, etc, etc. When you see it coming down to that, just slow down. Don't be hasty to rush into these kind of matters. Stick to what you know from the religion. Stick to Tawheed. Learn Tawheed properly. 2. Learn Ibadah. Read books like the books of Ibn al-Qayyim that will really teach you how to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your daily matters. And once you'll have reached that, you'll see that you will be far less in need of a social gang around you that kind of like keeps you up and makes you feel alright in your religion. You will have reached another level that will give you far more independence, and you will be much less likely to compromise what you know from your religion just for the sake of staying with your crew. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.